Hi, my name is Keisha. Welcome to Unspoken History. Today I'm going to be talking about, I'm just going to read a little bit of my book about the Moors. This section is called The Black Kingdoms of Europe, page 43. So, um, I remember when I first heard the Moors, I heard a lecture by some people calling themselves Moorish Americans or Moors or whatever. And, excuse me, they told this story about being in America and having sovereignty and land rights, and I was just blown away. I was like, what? Black people in America? Just couldn't believe it. Because when I asked my mother, what part of Africa are we from? And she said she didn't know. Her mother told her that we were Cherokee. I said, well, why aren't we on the reservations then? She said her mother said they wouldn't let us. So I was always thinking that it was just like a mix of these other groups with the Africans, maybe. I don't know. I really didn't know. But I'm glad I do now. So anyway, these blackamoors, like some people like to call them, that were in Europe, they began in Europe, and then they spread their religion to other parts of the world. So then they spread themselves to other parts of the world, right? Like if you are told that, oh wait, Moors are Aboriginal Americans, but Moors are also Aboriginal over there across the sea. Well, that's because people spread their religion. And so if we don't look at it as black people were spreading everywhere because they were Moors, no, Islam was spreading. The Muslim belief system was spreading. So his whole idea, Muhammad's whole idea was to convert people, right? The same Catholic idea, which I believe they're the same, but that's my personal opinion. So, so these black kingdoms in Europe. So also at the same time, while you have Moors coming from Africa, moving into Europe, somehow there were already black people there. Yeah, I think that's interesting too. So I want to get into some of that, just kind of read a little bit. Um, and then you can go do some more research, go look some more stuff up and find some more information. Because I don't like to sit in front of people that are doing 2 hour long videos. Um, Not that the information is not great. I like the information. And if I'm cleaning up and moving around the house and I can turn it up really loud and then I can listen to it, then yeah. But otherwise, I mean, I've seen 4 hour videos, and one of my daughters says she'll listen to a long video. But anyway, I was getting ready to say I really don't think it takes that much. You can give people the gist of what you're saying, most of what you're saying, a grasp of what you're saying, and then allow them to explore, allow their their heart to confirm or deny what you are feeling based off of the information you just heard. So anyway, this is page 43. One of the lies that I had to sift through was the misconception that all of Europe was inhabited by the kind of people you see ruling today. However, that was not always the case. There is a lot of evidence that points to the contrary. From about the year 700 until around 1492, black people, also known as Moors of the Moroccan Empire ruled much of Europe. Morocco, the area around North Africa, and the whole area around the Mediterranean Sea was the Kingdom of Morocco. I am probably leaving areas of Europe out. I say that because there are architectural structures that leave the evidence of an Islamic presence all over Asia, Western and Northern Europe, prior to the Moorish conquest of Europe. There were already black kings in Europe. The Irish, Celts, Danes, Germans, Britons, and Russians all have a black presence in their history. This Negro, this Negro and African presence in Europe began before the year AD 700, when the Moors began their conquest. There is an online article called science.org that states that the original Europeans must have, according to scientists, come out of Africa. The article states that the majority of Europeans found, excuse me, the article states that the majority of Europeans found had dark skin and that white skinned people were found in the northern regions later in history. I found this article. Okay, so I found this article as a after watching a documentary. This document is dated 1851. It's a treatise on physical geography, comprising hydrology, geognosy, geology, meteorology, botany, zoology, anthropology. This was written in 1851 by A. Barrington. In this collection of studies, he makes a very good analysis of the different people of the world and notes their similarities and their very small differences, which are listed in the next paragraph. This is a very interesting collection of data. I'm using this reference to show that there has always been a presence of black and brown people on every continent. In this section on the variety of mankind, pages 297 and 298, the document states the peculiarities in people chiefly relied upon by those who maintain that man is of several different species are the color of the skin, the nature of the hair, and the peculiar conformation of the bones, particularly the skull. This article was written during the rise of the new war in America, the black people against the white people. The information in this article was never presented to our education system. Discrimination against others occurred, of course, but not because of your skin color. However, if you were to serve the wrong God, you could lose your head, your name, your home, or your head. This document states that the people of the Americas are Negroes, copper colored races. They're all shades of brown as well as black and are of the same species of people. This diversity in complexion is seen all across the Americas and Africa. This article also makes a comparison of the people in the Americas with the brown and black people of Europe. It states, if the Negro be of one species and the Dane of another, to which belong the Italian or the Spaniard. Actually, the article says the brown Italian and Spaniard. Um, it states that the Dane, the Spaniard, and the Negro and the Italian all look the same. They are all diverse complexions from dark brown to light brown and even black. The document comes to the conclusion that the argument founded on color is directly met with contradictions. Excuse me, directly met and contradicted by the historic fact that the very same race exhibits the same shade of color. The Aboriginal Americans are unquestionably of one race. And yet, when you move from around the lake southward, they become darker and darker till in the plain. A. Barrington. He asserts that on the continent of Europe, people were all shades of brown and black as well as white. In Africa, you see all shades of brown, including black. This was also true for America up until colonial times. Now, America seems wholly white. When the Spanish arrived in America for conquest in the 1400s, they had already vanquished the enemy, the diabolical Moor, and Hebrew Israelite, aka Negroes from Europe. However, we know that there is evidence of the black and brown and mulatto people in Europe after 1492, and it continues to this day. There are still black people in almost every country in Europe. There are black and brown people in Denmark, the UK, France, the Netherlands, Belgium, Portugal, Spain, Germany, Italy, Norway, Sweden, and the Republic of Ireland, Turkey, and Russia. I am most likely leaving some places in Europe out of this list. However, I believe that my point has been made. While I was growing up, I did not watch a movie or documentary that would imply that there were black people in Europe, whether enslaved or not. The first time that I heard the voice of a black person from the UK, I was shocked. Wow, I thought, they sound just like the white people from the UK. After reading the article that I spoke about in this chapter, I was compelled to search for more evidence of black and brown people in European history. What I have been finding is a large amount of evidence that proves what I believed. There are black and brown people all over the planet, as it had been for thousands of years. I came across another article published by PBS.org, The Blurred Racial Lines of Famous Families by Mario Van Kolkum. The article is mostly about Queen Charlotte, the bride of King George III. She was of Moorish nobility. That just means she was one of the black nobles of Europe. The Washington Post published the same information that PBS did. In the article by the Washington Post, they stated that Queen Charlotte was from black Portuguese nobility. Black Portuguese nobility. Many of these kings and queens were either black, white, brown skinned, or mulatto. As I stated before, there were religious wars. These were religious wars, not wars between black people and white people. Therefore, I now understand that there were black nobles in Europe. Black and brown people did not arrive in Europe as a result of war and slavery. They were already there. The Dictionary of Natural Biography is a standard work of reference on notable figures in British history. In 1885, Anne of Bohemia, Thomas Butler, Earl of Ormond, and Lord Thomas of Fairfax were listed with the complexions of their skins noted. They were listed as black, brown, or swarthy. Early Man in Britain by Boyd Dawkins. Boyd found that the earliest skulls found in the ancient French were that of black or swarthy people, therefore concluding that the first French were black or swarthy, or dark complexion. A description of the western island of Scotland by Martin, published in 1703 and digitized by the National Library of Scotland. The inhabitants of the Isle of Scotland are recorded as being black or brown skinned. The Book of Erin by W. M. Mackenzie from 1914. This is another publication on the history of Scotland. The publication describes the Norse invaders as Fingal, or white stranger, and the Danes were described as Dougal, or black strangers. NationalGeographic.com published an article on December 12, 2019, titled The Empire of the Moors by Aaron Blackamore. The article states that the word Moor, despite past discrepancies in the understanding or meaning of this word, simply means black person. The article says that one of the very famous Moors was, the article says that one of the very famous Moors was Othello, the Moor of Venice. I never knew Othello was black. Never seen him portrayed as black. Never heard him called black. Many of the Moors and the Israelites were converts to Christianity. The nobles who were not Muslims were Christians. These Muslims and Christian nobles were intermarrying just like nobles do. We have only been allowed to see white people in these historical positions, so we almost cannot imagine it being true. The Washington Post printed a quote by Benjamin Franklin. In the article written by Catherine Rampo, August 28, 2015, the article says that Benjamin Franklin was upset about the amount of Germans immigrating to the English colonies of Pennsylvania. It was their dark complexion that he was concerned about. Why should we suffer the Palatine Boers to enter our settlements? Shortly, he says that that they will become so numerous. Shortly, he says they will become so numerous that they will Germanize us instead of us Anglifying them. So there were Moors in Germany, and they didn't want to be, what did he call them, Germanized. They wanted to stay Anglified. Now, I once heard that this word, this Anglo or Angli, is related to angel. Like some of those people believe they're descended from the fallen. But I don't know if that's true. I don't know what that word anglify. Uh, if you look it up, it says it make them Christian, but okay. I ain't gonna mess with the Christians today. The article went on with more of Franklin's words, where he states that the amount of purely white people in the world is proportionally very small. He says that the Spaniards, the Italian, the French, the Russians, and the Swedes are of swarthy or dark complexion. Franklin quote goes on to say that the only pure white people are the Saxons and the English. The Moors and the Israelites, both melanated people, are recorded as being a heterogeneous group, heterogen, heterogeneous group along the coast of West Africa, as well as North Africa. They are witnessed as living together in Spain, France, and Portugal. Spain, France, Portugal, and Italy, before, during, and after the discovery of America. There is the presence of black Israelites and black Muslims or Moorish people all throughout the Americas, Europe, and Asia, and Africa until this day. Arthur Kessler states that there were black Jews, which he calls Israelite Jews, in many parts of Europe in the time of Israel's captivity to the Romans, as most of them did not return to Israel at the end of the Roman rule. Kessler says that the Khazar Jews left their original habitation and appeared in Poland around the same time that the Western Israelite Jew, aka Black Jews or Hebrew Israelites, were, which is why put Hebrew and Israelite together? I mean, I don't know. Were emerging in Germany. Toward the end of the first millennia, the most important settlements of Western European Jew were in France and the Rhinelands. Some of these communities had probably been founded in Roman days, for between the destruction and the decline of the Roman Empire, Jews had settled in many of the greater cities under its rule and were later on reinforced by immigrants from Italy and North Africa. So, this is saying that there were more of these dark skinned Jews coming from Italy and North Africa, along with Moors too, probably, or Muslims. Kessler also makes references to the Germanic Judaica. He says that it is a good reference work to historic sources, shedding light on individual communities up to the year 1236, 1238. It is a dim light, but at least it illuminates the territorial distribution of Western Jewish communities in Germany during the critical period when Khazar Jewish immigration into Poland was approaching its peak. Majority of the world's inhabitants are black and brown-skinned people. This has been the case since the beginning of recorded history. However, if you Google a photo of any prominent figure in history, they are almost always white. I read in these documents the description of people, yet Google still seems to come up with these photos that do not match the description. The description has left us all in a state of discombobulation and confusion. These acts are not only harm black and brown people in the world, it also hurts the fair and white people in the world. We are all from Noah's three sons. Therefore, we are all of the same species, the species or race of men, in many shapes, sizes, and colors, but all from the same man, Noah. We are all men and women created by the Most High God, blessed in His name. We all have been lied to. Our history, excuse me, we have all been lied to about our history, so that a small few can continue to be in position to rule the many. Do not think for a second, white people, that those in power have your best interests at heart. They do not. If our history is twisted, yours is too. Okay, so and then I just start talking about the wars that happened between the Muslim and Christian powers in Europe. And since it was time for the Moorish kingdom to end, the Lord allowed the Catholics to overpower them and kick them out of all of their positions in Europe. It took a while. I don't know exactly when those wars started, but it took a while. It didn't happen. It wasn't no 20 years or nothing like that. It took a while, right? Because these were royals. You can't just decide one day that you want to kick them all out, right? Because armies are paid, right? Even militias, they're paid. Kings have to, excuse me, kings have to pay their army. Everybody's got to pay. And these people have money. So I'm sure it took a long time before they were totally expelled from Europe. And a lot was going on. They was being, if they could not go back and be under the protection of the Moroccan kingdom over in Morocco, then they were heading to St. Thomas Island. They were heading down to the Caribbean somewhere, Brazil, wherever, for slavery if they didn't die. So anyway, thanks for watching. That's what I wanted to talk about. Well, I talked more about black people being in Europe, not necessarily them being Moors. But we know they were there for 700 years. So they were all over Europe. And the only way you can tell the difference is by their religion. You couldn't look at somebody and say, oh, well, that's a Catholic right there. That's a Catholic Christian. That's a Protestant. That's a Moor. That's an Israelite. No. It was their language, their culture, their clothes, their religion, not their skin color. So, thanks for watching. I hope you come back and watch another video. Please like, share, and subscribe. And thank you.